Hello, everybody. TechStack here. Yesterday I couldn't stream. Earlier in the day I was able to add. Hey, Deldrick. You might have a record. First person to say something. At least this year you've got the record. Last year we had some people that were before I even streaming. They were start chatting. I am doing good. How are you doing? So before, earlier today, before the stream, I added the chest, right? I think you've seen it, Deltrick. If I go ahead and start up here, we've got a character playing in a scene. The scene is pretty dark still. Gotta aim for gold, doing pretty good. Awesome. I put a light attached to our player just so we can see. That light needs to be ramped up quite a bit, though. I'm getting a little bit of jitter as far as it wants to act like I'm falling in the ground, and I need to figure out what that's about. But the chest is here. Visually, it's okay. It seems to me like it's lacking something. I think what it's lacking is probably some type of indication or texture or border around the joint, right, where the lid will open up, because I actually got it so it'll open up. So if I go to Control-Shift-P and find where I'm at, there we are, and click on the thing, hit F over here, and then grab the lid and just rotate it along the y-axis, you'll see it does open up. If I come back out of this, you can see the inside. Nothing special about it really. I just made it green inside because I've seen like some felt type material inside of it would be cool. Build a little bit of a latch to it, right? So it's got some detail there. You can see if I Control-Shift-P, game view. My mouse doesn't show, but right there's a little bit of a latch type feeling thing to it. Yeah, bit of a texture stuff. It works for now, right? For prototyping. We've got our arrows. Since we last streamed, the arrow will now rotate the tip of the arrow to point in the direction of travel. So if it's traveling up, the tip of the arrow will be pointing up, and as it reaches its apex, it'll start to aim down. And you can see that if I fire one off in the distance there, you can see it start to rotate down. If it's on an angle like that, you'll see it lands like that. If I Control-Shift-P and change our rigid body controller real quick so that it's no longer clamping on the vertical rotation, I can rotate up higher. We can shoot up in the air, and you see they flip around and come right back down to us and stick more vertically into the ground. So that's a more realistic arc to it, right? Before it was just basically flying straight. It would arc, but it was like a flat thing going up in the air. Am I lagging? What's going on? No, I was just stuck in the corner. I do have some problems with, as far as where I can go with the player and things like that. I sized the player small enough that if I get over here, he can fit down the ladders, right? So he falls down the hole. When I first set this up, he wouldn't be able to do that. The ladder itself would take up too much space. When the player was there as well. So I also offline set up Trello. If I can find my other thing that I'm looking for on the floor here. Where'd it go? My other slipper. Yeah, and that was the reason that I wanted to get the basic level up, right? Because then I can go from there and rapidly build stuff. Gives me something to test with, and that's really, to me, that's a lot of this, right? It's not just code it, it's tested as well. So I've got some ideas of other things that we need to add models for. So the chest, I'm going to call it done enough for now. From a prototype standpoint, we need a torch. We've got the basic square that's been elongated in Unity, but I want something a little better than that. A bow, right, so that we can get some type of animation hooked up to our arrow, and then a sword. I guess I should add on here arrow, right? We need an arrow. What else? We've got a zombie and a skeleton. Just throwing out basic ideas for monsters. Maybe we can get some other ones in there as well. I'm not sure what yet, though. Let's... Oh, wait. Do we add a Jordan? Do we add a Fiery? Do we add a Trey or 3? A CZ. Arrow. Horn. Why not, right? This would be good to have. Yeah, those are friends from my my gaming group. But they're also a tie back to the original Demon Depths as well. Jordan has a mob in that, so it's fitting. I could probably add 5 or 6 more to that list too. But a Fiery, like, would be really good. Like, Fiery hasn't been in anything else, but in this, I can make a real Fiery. Because I can have him, like, on fire, basically. Those might be bosses, actually. Yeah. Okay, but for now, let's grab this chest. Yep, we're in the prefab. Oh, we got an animator on already. Nice. I did not remember doing that, but I'm okay with that. It's probably the way we imported the thing. So let's go ahead and add an animation to this. We call it chest open. And let's put it under here. We'll call this animations. Animations. Save. App property. We're going to do the rotation. Not of the chest though, so let me take that back out. We want the chest lid specifically. Transforms. Rotation. And if we open this thing, it's going to rotate along the y-axis specifically, I believe it is. And we're just going to, over what? 5 seconds? That might be a little too slow, actually. We'll try it. So at 5 seconds, it should rotate to 0. Nope. It's not the y-axis. Must be x. There we go. Now if we drag this back, get this kind of centered so we can see it, and hit play, it opens like crazy. That is not 5 seconds, that's 5 frames, isn't it? I mean, it animates, it's just way too fast. Maybe if we turn it from 60 samples to 20? That's good, right? Yeah. I wish there was a way in the preview window here to not have it loop. Okay, I want to see it just like a solo of it. One run of it. But whatever. Okay, so we got that. We need to somehow tell the chest to open. And ideally, we need to have our player be able to interact with various objects in the world, right? And I think, you know, the way Minecraft does it, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. Would think that would be a thing. Yeah, I would think it would be too, as far as the animation not looping. I don't know why they don't, but I haven't found it if they do. As far the way that Minecraft interacts with things, right? I think it's you right click. I can never remember because I'm just so used to doing it. I don't think about it. It'll open the chest, right? And there's probably scenarios where you don't want it to open, but it opens anyway because of the way it's just set up. I'm thinking more about, should we have a separate key that is the interact with something in the world button, right? Like the E key to open a chest. Yeah, and then that leaves your right click, left click to do the things that we've talked about so far, you know, placing the torch, firing your bow, swinging your sword, whatever action that you've assigned to that particular button at the time is what it would do. Yeah, so Yeah, exactly. And it's just because they're so close to your keyboard, right? So I'm going to set it up as a input here in Unity, if I can remember the window. General. Nope. Nope. Where is it? Is it project settings? Project settings. Input. And you've got all these buttons, so I'm going to make another one. And I'm going to call it interact. And we're going to default it to the E key. I'm also, while I'm in here, going to tell gravity to be speed at which units travel falls towards neutral when device is at rest. Whoop. Please increase the gravity. 10,000. I think that's probably a good number. So this is to work with when you take a step with the default controller, it still walks for a while after you let go of the button. I'm trying to remove that. Allows you to right click for combat if desired and not have to have users accidentally enter something. Exactly why I'm doing a separate key for it. So let's grab that interact. Let's go to our player then. Our player script. Open it up, please. And I'm probably going to have to look up some code because I haven't done it in a while, but I'm going to get a ray from the center of the screen and cast that out into 3D space, see what the object is we hit with the ray, and then call a method on that object. Okay, so in update, if input get button, and I believe the button name is that, right? So this is while the virtual button is identified as held down. We want to say button down then. And that is the first frame. Yes, that's what we want. Right, I know how to do the raycast. It's the getting the center of the screen that I need to just look up. I haven't done it in a while. I think it's something like camera, which we probably have a reference to. Yeah, we got a reference to camera. Camera dot screen point to ray. That's probably it. Returns a ray going from camera through a screen point. Okay, and it's a vector 3. I can see it being a vector 2 because it's 2D space on the camera. Turns a ray going through the camera, from the camera, through a screen point. Maybe it's a vector 3, but one of the coordinates is 0. So we'll say new. Cam.screen width. I'm gonna look it up because I don't know what it should be. Just 1 second here. Unity cast ray from camera in center. Viewpoint array, I think is what we're looking for. The thing is, you just pasted in viewpoint array. We probably found the same thing. This. Yeah, it looks like we did. Cool. Bottom left is 0, 0. Top right is 1, 1. So 0.5 would be half. And then the 0. Okay, so the third coordinate is just ignored. I thought it would be. And that's exactly what I'm going for. This right here. Just capture this all so I don't mess it up. And we already got cam defined as cam. That's nice. That'll do for me. I don't care about nothing. I'll do it in my syntax, which I like the brackets on their own lines. Something weird like that. That should do it. Okay, so let's run this. Let's run it not in maximize mode. Come on. Oh, it's compiling. Let's clear this. Clear on play is already there. Hit play. It's going to load everything in the world. I also set it's way up in the air, right? So that kind of a little bit of an animation going into this. Okay, I'm going to center my screen on that. Boom. I am looking at DD connector. Interesting. Which is true, right? We're in the connector. The whole thing is a connector, right? My camera is like really lagging. But it's not when the game's paused. Interesting. Come on. Or Shift P. We're getting 140 frames a second. Maybe it's the new update to OBS. Oh well. Control P. So, we're getting the connector. I think the way I'm going to combat that is to go to my prefab for my objects chest, open the prefab, set it as a new layer. I'm going to add this layer as interactables. Interaction enabled. I don't know. Save. Go back to this. Say interaction enabled. Yes. Add component. It's going to be its own little script. It's going to be an interaction script. New script. Create an ad. Okay. I think this script is going to call the appropriate pieces of this object's code, right? So this is going to be a generic type thing. And we're going to add another one that is a chest, right? The chest script. And we're going to set up interaction with a method that just says interact. And in it, it's going to have an event that it's going to fire that is going to be registered with our chest script through Unity. Yeah, that sounds good. In this, though, because we've got this interaction enabled now, we need to get up here, serializable. Well, chest could extend interaction. Not going to argue with that, but I'm not sure if you can say get component of type interaction and it would return the chest. I'm just not familiar with the get component on inheritance like that. If you know the answer, that's fine. Private layer mask. Layer mask. Let's use that down here on this. So we need a what? Max distance, okay. And layer mask. Oh. Vaguely remember doing it with a 2D thing. Okay. I'll give it a try. It's not gonna hurt us anything. The way I was gonna set it up though, it was gonna be pretty nice to set up and reusable. Float that. We're gonna set a max distance of 10 units. The layer mask is serializable so that when we go back to our player here, we can just set that layer mask. Assuming it's saved. And there's no errors, which there is. You don't like something, what don't you like? Physics to raycast. Distance. Distance and layer mask. We want one with a layer mask. Raycast, raycast. Okay, so we can do that ordering. So we need to put the raycast hit as our first one. And that should fix it. After the ray. And then we need to get rid of that. There we go. So now what that does for us is anything that's set on this layer mask that I'm about to set is what it's going to look at. It's going to ignore everything else. So once it loads, we will say interaction enabled. Now our rays will only hit those objects on that layer. Okay. So that should take care of that piece. Then over on the chest, so you're saying... Let's try it. How are we going to get it to extended if it's... We can just make that a mono behavior, I guess. So on the chest. Because in order for it to show up here, one of the classes has to be a mono behavior. So we could leave interaction as mono behavior, you're saying, and then chest extends interaction. Then we can say remove interaction from this. Once it compiles, there it goes. And if I create a class called interact, or a method called interact, public interact, not interaction, come on. And then in here, we'll do the meat of what we actually need to do. And I guess we need to put this in here. Void. Void. I didn't hear the member interact. We just want to overwrite it. Let's do this. Public abstract. That way it's not going to implement anything. And it will be assumed that the we don't want to use new. Right. You just seen I had override in there. Here's off differently. Cannot override inherited members interaction.interact because it's not marked as virtual abstract override. Okay. So I need to make it abstract. Public ab. Act. I thought making the class with abstract would imply that all the other ones are. Okay, so in our interact piece, we need to say grab our animator. So we need a start. Got rid of my P somehow. And we need a serializable field for private. And the private is going to do what? It's going to be an animator. Animator. Anim. And then we can just say requires component. Requires component type of animator. I might need to take my keyboard out of this keyboard tray because I can never hit the buttons because my desk is in the way. Or maybe I need to move the whole keyboard tray forward like 2 inches. Enum equals get component animator. Put them like that. And then we get to say anim. We'll just call it open. Open. Keep this method very simple. And in open public void ID. Open that. Say anim dot play. No, set trigger open. Okay, and then on the chest in its animator, we will. Why is it not? Oh, we don't select it. Really? Ah. So we need to grab something here under animations. This chest and put it on there. There we go. Now I got chest open. But we want to break this. Delete you. I don't want you to default. I don't want to go to trans. We need to set up another state then. Create new clip. Chest. Default. Chest idle. We might need to end up making one that's what's the word I'm looking for? A close animation, right? So it's already open and we close it. But for now, we'll only do these two. We can use idle as our default. And then from our idle, we can go to here based on the trigger that we're going to create. Not another layer. The trigger we're going to create. And we name said trigger open. Okay. And in the animation transition, we will say open. And it will do set open. Ta-da! We do not want to make this loop forever though, so if we go, I think it's to this, say loop time off. Okay. So now we've got this set up to triple layer animation. We're also eventually going to need to like hook back to the player and say open your GUI for this, right? But for now we'll just do this. Then on our DD player, we're looking at something, right? We've clicked our interact button. We're looking at something. Then we need to check to see, is it an interaction object? So interaction I equals get component interaction if I is not equal to null, then we know that we got an interaction, and we're going to say I dot interact, just like that. Maybe if I go multiplayer, I'll need to pass some parameters to it, like player or something, but we're ways away from considering multiplayer. Let's see if the chest opens. Right click it, we do that. Left click it, we do that. Hit E. And a nothing. Not even our message. Okay, is it because of the layer mask? Or the distance, perhaps? Okay. So it's not hitting anything. That's on the arrow hit is what that's about. Did we set the layer mask? We did. Is chest on that layer in that prefab? That might be the issue. So there's a child prefab. I believe it's this one. Yeah. So this is a child prefab here. And it is on interaction enabled. Huh. Are all the children of the children? They are. Got it. Okay, so if I go to this prefab, there is no collider on this at all. It needs a collider. It's going to be a mesh collider. It's right there. Animator. Or are you saying on this one here? It's right there. For the chess script. Right, that's fine. Because on start, we're setting it. I guess this doesn't need to be serializable. There's no need to show it in Unity. The code's gonna find it. And so we've got the mesh collider. The problem is it's going to be only one mesh, not the two. So if I drag, no, that's not going to work. So I got drag E. This chest. You know what? It's gonna bubble up. I'll just put it on this. That'll work. Mesh collider. That gets it there, and I'll put one down here. Mesh. Having a mesh collider might be overkill because it's probably not gonna need. Yeah, I was just gonna say a box collider might work. The only benefit of having it as a mesh collider is when it's open, you could look at the lid, right? If we wanted to close it again. Okay, let's try that. Now we got a collider on it because they wouldn't have never had the raycast hit it. Got a collider. Minor mistake. Boop. Boop, 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 boop. Nope. It does say I'm looking at a chest. I'm looking at a chest, so that is working. We are getting down to this piece of code. So it must not be getting an interaction then. So let's try changing this on the fly to chest. There we go. And hit E. It's still doing it. Spawn point, what? Is never assigned. It will be set to default value. No. Oh. It's because we changed the code on the fly, so some of these values didn't get reset properly. Wow. So it does have dynamic code insertion, but it can cause problems. Still no chest opening. Well, it's calling interact. We're casting it to an interaction. Shouldn't really matter. Interaction call open. No, set trigger should work. So if you just... Yeah, see, it opens. Plays the open animation when the trigger gets set. Let's add a debug here. Debug.log. Open called for chest. That way we're sure that we're getting into that piece of code or not, because that's what I'm debating in my mind, is whether or not that's actually getting to that piece of code. I don't think that it is. I mean, maybe it is now that we're doing the chest piece. Control-Shift-P. Looking at chest. So it never got to that piece of code. That shouldn't really, in theory, make a difference, right? Let's check the chest one more time. Project, chest. Prefab chest, please. Objects, chest. We've got a chest script. Oh, that's fun. Chest lid. So the chest script is on a different object than the parent. So the parent, yeah, let's just make it a block collider, like you said. Box collider 2D or 4D, whatever, 3D, however many Ds we need. Chest bottom, chest top. Let's get rid of the mesh colliders on these then. So what's happening is the mesh collider's at a different level in the hierarchy. It's getting the collision. There is no interaction object on that object in the hierarchy. It's on the parent instead. So let's center this up on 0.5, I guess it is. There we go. So if you look anywhere at the chest, the main part of the chest, it will do a thing. Okay, so then let's go back to trying this with interaction, because I really would like to know if this works. The other thing we could do is, tell it to look at the parent, but then that gets tricky because we're assuming that all of our objects will be set up the same, and there'd be a parent that would have the collider or the interaction object, and some of them may not. So I'm looking at a chest. It's still not doing it. If I does not equal null, then call interact. And I am looking at a chest. So it is getting the parent object now. Let's go here. We can tell our camera's right there, so we got the right object. We are on chest. It does have a box collider. This is on interaction enabled. We've got a chest script. It should be working. So that makes me wonder, is it because it's interaction? Let's rerun it one more time. Rerun it, please, I said. There's no errors. It's just this debug log. Hey, if you see something, man, tell me. It's chest bottom, but that's fine. So this is the chest. This is the collider. It's not a trigger. We've got chest script on that. Oh, you're so right. I need this. We were looking at our self the whole time. Yeah. That's a stupid mistake on my part. Ta! You were with it. I wasn't. I was the one that got bamboozled. What? Somehow moved that off and covered up the play button. Control P. You noticed it about the same time I did. So we've got it set to interaction now to see if this whole thing we were trying to test works. It does. That's good. I'm curious why when I looked at the lid it didn't want to open though. And also, why is it not opening over and over again? Oh wait, I know why it's not opening over and over again. We don't have our animator set up to go from that back to that. It won't allow it. Will that work for us then? I think it will. So all I have to do is say interact, right? So if it's a door now that we create, when the player hits the E key, the door opens, or if it's open already, you can shut, whatever. And that logic of opening the thing or closing the thing would be dependent on the child interaction event. You see this jiggling up and down. It's like I'm clipping into the ground and then jumping back out of it. I don't understand why. It might be because there's so many meshes here, right? Because this whole thing is a bunch of cubes beneath my feet. Check my Y level. Control Shift P to get out of pause mode. It's not moving. It's just the camera, isn't it? Yep, it's the camera that's moving. I'm not moving though. The head bob should be off, right? It shouldn't be doing anything. Oh look. Where's the head bob script at? Just disable it. I thought it was something more technical than that. Okay, we'll turn head bob off for now. Like, this probably is not going to be my end game player, right? Object. This was just for rapid prototyping, but it was driving me nuts. Yeah, it's to the music, right? Exactly. Okay, so we can get these print statements out of here now. I'm actually gonna remove this one and put this one back in here, but as a debug, because I like that methodology better. This, and we'll say I'm interacting with like that. Trying to interact with, because it may not be successful if it's not an interaction subclass. Okay, let's go to this. Where is it opening? Cool. You off screen? You are off screen. Models. Let's go here. Interaction objects. And we will add a checklist. Objects to add. We've got one for our chest. We can cross that one off the list. We're gonna add one for doors. Buttons. What else might we need to interact with, guys? There would be like potentially NPCs, but that's kind of a whole different thing. Yeah, I got button on here. Or you're asking, okay. Is interaction a misnomer since it's an object you're interacting with and not an action itself? So interactable might be more intuitive of a name class. I see what you're saying. It's more of an interactable than an interaction. Yeah, probably. Interactable. Objects. Wait, if I can spell it right. So you're saying in my code as well, just to be clear. Interact. Still would be interact though. And this would be interact. Successfully got you to match your classes. So you've been here, done this then, you're saying? I'm not one that's a real strong stickler for how things are named. Which will probably come back and bite me later, but oh well. So I need to rename that. And make sure that space didn't come. No, it did. Cool. And this should be under scripts, along with all this other stuff. Just finished for similar system first time. I love it. Once I got it working. So what I wanted to do was a different way. Deltrick got me on to this way. What I wanted to do was use events, and I probably will do that for the button still. Problem is it feels so elegant compared to other crap I write. I don't want to crack it open and add more features and make it ugly. Oh no. Yeah. I feel you. I think I'm gonna go ahead and add the button and the door mechanic because I want the button to be in a separate part of the world from the door in some scenarios. And I want them to be linked together. And I'm probably going to use the same system I used for the 2D game I was working on, where the button has an event trigger that you can call, and then it can call another object's code that way, a Unity event. So let me get the code out for that because I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, and it's going to be handy right from this other project, which is DD. Assets. Scripts. And did I call it? What did I call it? Button. Chest interactions. Cave interaction. I'm liking this system better than what we had before. It's called floor button. That's what it is. So I open this up. We need to create a public variable that we can set inside Unity. Come on, open. Come on, Visual Studio. It doesn't take this long, does it? It's one little text file. I should open it in Notepad. It's still loading on my other screen. Okay. This is what I was looking for. Oop. So let's go ahead in our new area. So we'll create C# script, and this will be a button. And this button is going to extend interactable once it opens in here. Open, please. As long as I'm nitpicking name classes, chunk coordinate didn't. Oh, that's good because I didn't even use it. Shh. It was old code that needs to be deleted anyway. Come on, what? Unity. Please, sir. I'm gonna close out Visual Studio. Back in Unity. It's complaining it didn't like me renaming and moving things at the same time, I don't think. I might have killed it. Oh, and it also doesn't like this. Cool. I should have just opened that in TextPad. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so that prompt was locking Visual Studio as a whole. Okay, so this button is gonna do interaction or interactable, and we're gonna have an interact. But first, we're gonna have that type in our code, and we need to go using Unity engine dot events. It's either events or event system. It's events. Cool. Grab this, and I'm going to open this in Notepad++ this time, so it doesn't take 6 years to open. It is event system. Thought it was. Okay. And down here is how we invoke it. Like that. So we will say interact. What don't you like? Button does not implement inherited abstract. Yes, that's what I want to do. Public interact. Public override void enter. There it is. You had to spell it out for the freaking thing. And there we go. And we just call that event. So now if I save this and go back to Unity, and we create a... I don't have a 3D object. So let's create a great big cube for the moment. Throw this in the scene. And down here we add the interact script. No, we add the button script. Sorry. Button. So this is button. So let's do this. It can't be added. Why? Interactable should override mono behavior, and it does. Yeah. Interactable. We just had it on another class. Is it because I backdoored it in there by having it on the class and then changing the type? So if I did this mono behavior here and put it on the class, is it? Oh, this is sure. Just say that. I don't care. But mono behavior. What? Is it a different button class? No, it's that class. Wait a minute. We've got an overall error. That's the problem. It's not compiling at all. Okay, so we need to fix those. That's why I can't get my autocomplete to work too. Okay, so this is saying interaction doesn't exist. So this, let's look up interaction. Where did it go? Interactable. This should be interactable then. Okay, now are you happy? No, button doesn't do it. What? Don't use button. Don't use button as a class name. Button, wall button. Because that's a Unity thing, and it's getting confused as to which button it is. Wall button. Okay, save. So now if we open wall button, we've got some errors here, but those are from the last time we played. Okay, so now if I go interact, why is interactable still not showing? What in the world? Visual Studio, you need a nap. Okay, so is it Control Enter? Alt Enter. Implement abstract class. There we go. And we're gonna say that code that we copied from the other one, like that. That's our pressed action. So when we press the button the first time, that works for me as for a name. Now, if we go here, got all the bugs fixed out of it. We should be able to add wall button. No. Wall button. So now we've got this. This is a list of empties, right? So if we added, say, our chest to this, like that, we can, on our cube, which is our button, right, add in the chest object here, and on that object we can call any set of code that we like open. So that's what I'll do for my doors within the scene, within the chunk setup prefab. I'll add a button to the wall, and then I'll add a door somewhere else that works with it, or some other puzzle mechanics, right? I can do really anything I want with this type of setup. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to do earlier, Deltrick, when you were suggesting use the inheritance. And inheritance is probably the right way for that scenario. I just really like this because it's smooth. So where it becomes really handy is when you want to basically use Unity as a level editor, right? Because this is, you could do it with code, don't get me wrong. You can set all these up through code. I've done it before, but it's easier to do in Unity, right? You just drag in the object once you tell it all the methods and objects there. It's straightforward. You can add as many as you want. So if we wanted 3 things to happen, just add 3 of them. It's nice. So what I did for my other game was the floor button. When you walked on it, it did a thing. When you walked off of it, it did another thing. So I had two of these. One was the pressed action, the other one was the unpressed action. So you could close the chest when the player steps off the pressure plate, for example. And that reminds me, we need to do a pressure plate. If you had multiple things, do they happen sequentially or at the same time? There's probably a sequence that they get called in, because what it's doing behind the scene is basically, what's it called? Shoot. If you've ever added a method to a callback, they're callbacks is what they are. That's what the worst thing are. So you can have callback, we'll call it CB. Stop with the auto completion. Plus equals my method, right? If you've ever done that type of thing, where you've got another method down here called my method, void my method, like that. That's really what it's doing. It's just a graphical way of hooking them up. So these are going to get called in a certain order, but I don't know what the order is going to be. I would assume it would have to be similar to how you set it up here. Let me see if this is reorderable list. No, it's not. I would think I'd call probably the first one first, but I don't know. Never tested it. From my design perspective, I wouldn't make whatever they're calling, if there's multiples of them, be order dependent. Because I wouldn't rely on them to call in the same order every time. That's just my thought process. Pressure plate. All right, that's another thing, so we can set up traps this way. Maybe you walk over the... Maybe you walk over... Yeah, I got another idea. Maybe you walk over the pressure plate and it removes the block and lava drops down or something like that. Tripwire is another good one. This is a dungeon, right? So Demon Depths is a dungeon crawler, so dungeon-y type things is good. What about all loose items if you can pick items up? So you're saying that would be an interactable? Which is still spelled wrong. A-N-T-E-R, actable. What? Interactable. There, do it that way. Oh, I see what you're saying. If you manually pick them up. So my interact is you push the E key, right? And that tells it to interact with that other object. And I'm thinking on the case of an item on the ground, it's more about their trigger colliders and on trigger enter. Check if the collider that you're entering it is a player tagged item, collider, whatever, and then add yourself to that and destroy yourself, kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking for the moment, that they'll be automatically picked up, but there's benefits to have to force the player to pick them up too, right? Like you can't get extra junk in there you don't want that way. I just had an idea, so I want to go ahead and do that idea before I forget it. So we need to get rid of the cube now. We can get this, and on this chest script, let's make it dirty. And by dirty, I mean allow us to set up traps with the chest. So chest. We need to get our wall button event. Code. Oop. And do that. And we will not call it pressed event, we'll call it open event. We'll call it action. Keep them defined as actions for this stuff. And down here, we will call this. And we'll call it in here. So what that allows me to do as a level editor, I can go in and say when this chest opens, spawn the monster, right? Do whatever, really. We can set up traps like I was doing in my other game. Torches, if you want the player to be able to ignite douse torches in the level. If you pre-placed unignited torches or harvestables, if you plan to have something like plants the player can collect something from. Okay. Not sure we'll have plants. This isn't really a survival game, but the torch, being able to pick them up is probably a valid case for interactables. We did plan on making torches, but I didn't think about making them interactable, and that does make sense because you should be able to remove them from the wall. That was one of the things in the original. So, torch, ladder is another one, right? So, why ladders? In the original Demon Depths that we built, you could pick up a ladder and place it somewhere else so that you could use it to your benefit to maneuver around the world. Placing of blocks is really not set up correctly right now. Like, you can place fake torches, what I'll call fake torches, just placeholder things. And those placeholder things stay wherever you place them. So, like that, there's torches there. They just spawn wherever the player is, basically. I need to do the raycast again and figure out the block you're looking at. And depending on that block, find the air block next to it, kind of thing. Yeah, I need to figure out if you're looking at the top of a block or the side of a block. And place it there. Or just continue to place the blocks where the player's feet is instead of where their head is. That'd probably be easier, wouldn't it? Can I add more comments to this? I can't, can I? Convert to card now. So we've got a button script. Let's go ahead and get into Blender, I guess. Blender. And create a button itself. Boop, boop, delete you. Get a scale for our block itself. So scale 0.5. 3 dot on that to get it nice and tight. Go up 0.5. Okay, that's kind of a reference object just for size of our blocks in our game. Then we need to add a new object. Not in that mode, but in this mode. New object. Mesh. Cube. Scale it 0.5. So we want this really scaled down, don't we? How big should the button be? What should the button look like? Do we make it a rocking toggle button, like a light switch? Hey, thank you for the follow, Dimension. What other button types are there in the world? Especially medieval feeling, magical world type buttons. We could like make it a lever, but that has different implications than just a button click, right? Like you need to toggle states on a lever versus a button, which is either a momentary action. I guess we could make it an in-out button or on-off button. Let's just make it a small square for a moment. I'm not having any epiphanies as to what I want it to do. Oops. Scale along the that axis to 0.5. Why is it not going? Oh, maybe not luck. So let's grab this, move it 0.5. Move it 1 negative. There we go. Let's add a material to it. Assign. Let's use material if that's fine. Material 1-1, delete it. Material. What color? What color? What color? Oh. Material 1 then. Do we just make it an off gray? Oh, 1.1. 2. I can make it a lot more complex than this. And I'm going to. Just trying to decide what it should look like. Get it to go into the wall a little bit, right? And let's add yet another object so that we can animate it separately inside Unity. Way too big. Scale 0.1. Edit mode. Scale 0.1. Stupid numlock. I tell you, I turn this thing on and off like 6 times a night when I do this. Not intending to turn it off ever. There we go. Oh. There's a thing we could do. We could have buttons side by side. Like 2 different looks to them. Push one in and the other one pops out. Push this one and that one pops out. So like a toggle like that. Not really a rocker, but more of 2 independent buttons, and depending on which one you're looking at, because I could do that in Unity, figure out which one it is, it pops in or pops out. That's what we'll do. Then I'll just duplicate that. Grab it. So one could be on, one could be off. Like that. It could make one red, one green. That's kind of extreme though, especially if we're going for a medieval theme. So let's add a slot for materials to each of these. Material on that one can be an off material. Off. Material for this one can be an on material. we're gonna paint it like this for now. Let's get rid of this big cube. There's our buttons. Okay. Let's go to this. We'll go face mode. Grab this, and there we go. And let's try and get that far forward as we can without making it all the way through it. That. And then let's grab this one. Move it in relatively the same area, and then we'll get it about the same size. Center. Origin. Origin to geometry. Okay, can't do it in native mode. Set origin. Origin to geometry. There we go. Set origin. Origin to geometry. Same there. That way our center point of these objects are set in a spot that makes sense, because they were kind of offset from the whole geometry of the thing. So now that we've got this, we can move this one back into its in position, so we've got our initial state set up, right? And then through animations in Unity, we'll go between these two states. So save, and this is already under objects, toggle button. Save. Okay, and it should import here if it didn't already. It did. Let's focus in on that. Let's get an animation set up on this. Actually, let's grab this into its own prefab. So objects, original prefab, please, and go into prefab mode. We've got an animation controller already on this. We're going to create an animation toggle button off, and that's going to go under animations. And if we look under animations now, we have a toggle button controller. Oh, which it set it before this time. Last time I didn't set it. Whatever. So this animation is going to be that we're going to add two properties. Oh, we did not name our cubes properly. Okay, so let's do this. Housing. On button. Off button. Save. Unity should update. Lost the whole thing. Delete you. Go back down to objects. Put you in there. Here, original, delete the original one that's broken, get rid of the one, go into prefab mode. There we go. So now on this one, if we go here and find that same animator, yeah, and on this we've got toggle button 1 already set. Delete this. This, we're gonna add that there. Okay. Cool. Just making sure all the animation stuff's set up correctly. So now we got button off, and then we can add properties. We can say the on buttons transform position, and the off button transform position, or what we're going to mess with. And which direction are we going to move these in? We're going to move them in their x-axis. And let's reset that all the way. We're going to move it along. I wish that was more of an even number. Like it's such a big number. I don't have to type all that. Out. And the other one, that'll be our in position. Okay. So when we're toggling it off, we want to go from whatever to this state basically. So we'll do that. These need to be inverted as their starting points then, so we can take the X position here and paste it in there, and the X position for that one needs to be the opposite, which is 0.6. Right, so they're like that, and as it animates in, they switch positions. So we play this, speed it up by reducing the time to 30. There we go. Let's create a toggle button on. Transform position. That's not very intuitive to click on. It's like, okay, it's intuitive, but it's not very easy to click on it. It's very finicky where you're pushing their buttons. So we're going to go from, this is to turn it on. We're going to go from this state, so we need our cursor to be at the other end, to be the off position, which is that. And that one needs to be the other amount, the out. There we go. Duke. 30 seconds. And let's play it. Yep. Okay, so animator. Okay, and then we need one more. I keep forgetting about this one. Create new clip. Toggle button idle. And nothing's going to be done in idle. We need to set idle to our default layer. Then from that we can set our variables. So we're going to set a bool on this one. Is on, we'll call it. So transition from here to on when is on is true. Set this to 0. Here to there when, oh wait. Yeah, we can go from there to there to off. And when this one is false, and I think these transitions actually need to be moved. Wait, we don't want to go from there. We want to go from any state to off and any state to on so that you can switch between them. And off is when it is false. And there you go. And on is when it is true. Don't do that. There you go. Okay. Then on this animation, we do not want to loop on either one of those. Toggle we can loop, I don't care. I wonder if what I just did there sets this to not loop. Nope, it still loops. Okay, and then we can say button. Wasn't button handler, was it? It was wall button. Okay, and we've got a pressed event in our wall button. And we will call it something different, probably. Let's do toggle button instead. Oh, this is totally different. the toggle button itself needs to be handled separately than these other interactables, because we've got two different interaction points on our interactables. And those interactions, objects, whatever you want to call them, need their own separate colliders so we know which one the player is clicking. Box collider, where are you? There we go. So this whole thing doesn't need to have our interaction object on it at all. This does, and it's going to call its parent piece. So we need a toggle button. Yeah, let's do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to create a toggle. So we'll leave this one as is. Create another script. A wall button. So we'll create another one. Script. Toggle button. Open toggle button. We're going to have two toggle buttons on this object. Oop. We're going to create a private serializable or bool is on, and that'll be serializable, so we can set it in Unity. Then we're going to change this to be interactable. Enter. That's why. That explains so much. Okay. And then I probably have to change the name of the class, don't I? There we go. Toggle button, interactable. There we go. Does not implement, so we'll go Alt Enter. Implement it, please. There we go. And we will say we need to get the reference to the parent and call its code on it. So we would need to yeah. I'm gonna always try and spell it like that though, because my brain is bad at spelling. So I'm gonna do it that way. That's funny. I guess for people reading or watching on YouTube later, the definition of intractable is hard to control or deal with, so it makes sense. On this, we're going to call the parent class's code that actually does the toggling back and forth, right? It's going to control everything because it's going to have the animator. So this toggle button really just says hand off the code to the other script. And this one will be toggle button control. CONTROLLER. New script by that name, please. Whoever at Unity decided that entering the name and then just being able to hit enter twice shouldn't be a thing in Unity, Shame. I love that capability. So this is going to have a public method that is going to be void that just says toggle state. And toggle state is going to take a Boolean value, is on, and from that we'll have an if statement that says is on. If it's true, we'll do this. If it's not true, we'll do that. And we're going to have two different events in there that we need to call. So in our wall button, our chest, we did the event. There we go. We didn't yet. We need to. Wall button. Wall button. In here, we'll define the two different actions. On action. Off action. And we can say using Unity engine dot event system. There we go. And in one button we do this. On. So here we'll say on action. Down here we will say off action. And in toggle button we're saying this, but we'll say transform dot parent dot get component, and we need to find a toggle button controller on the parent, and we will call toggle, I forget what I called it, set toggle state. Toggle state, and we'll pass is on. Okay. Then back over here, we're gonna get some stuff compiling. Compile. We've got our two actions, which we can't set on the prefab. We will set these pieces down here though by adding the toggle button script. And that one is the off, so we will leave it off. And this one is the on. Toggle button. We'll say it is on. Feels like there should be an easy way to get components on any attached object, so you don't have to use that dot parent. Because it feels like a lot less reusable than I like in hitting it in symbol. Right, but I think it's more about the way I'm setting this up. I could have very easily had the button toggle on the parent, but it would have to have had two box colliders. I guess I could do it that way. Have two box colliders on the parent, but with different coordinates that line up with the buttons themselves. As part of this, though, so this is set up now to work with whatever we want to do, open a door, close a door, whatever. We need to also call a method to open or toggle our state back and forth, right? So we need our animator, public, start. Why did I get rid of the P again? I did it last time. So we'll say private animator anim equals get component animator, and we'll do required component thing. Required component thing. Required component. There we go. Type of animator. Get component from anywhere. Didn't know about that one. Does it get it from anything in the hierarchy going up the hierarchy? Because what if you had it on another game object somewhere else in the scene? Especially in my case, I'm going to have a lot of the same game objects. So we got our animator, and we can say anim.setBool. I just set it once, I don't set twice. Anim.setBool. Is it a... It is. ID. Really? ID? Name. There we go. Yeah, I mean, up or down in the hierarchy. Okay. And we say is on. And I think that's what we named the boolean in the animator window, but I want to make sure. Is on. With a capital I. Okay, so now we've got toggle button. I'm going to now close this toggle button. We're going to delete this from our scene. We're going to delete our chest from the scene. We're going to go down to our prefabs for the chunks. The connector is the one that had the chest in it already. We are going to find the chest. It's right there. We are going to add our button to this. And we'll put it right there, and I'm going to focus in on close on it. We're going to rotate it along its Z-axis. Nope, it's Y-axis. Rotate it -90, so it's along that wall. We're going to grab it and move it back like that. And then just because in your example, if you ever make another toggle button, which is admittedly unlikely, you have to make the same way, and it could be annoying if you forget. Yeah, so there's certain aspects of reusability that are good and some that are bad, and the ones that are bad, in my opinion, are the ones that slow you down from accomplishing your goal for the edge case that you might reuse it. Right? If it's something that's truly going to be reused a lot, yes, go for it, right? It makes sense. But if it's not, it's probably not worth it. That's just my opinion. So on action, we need to add. We're going to pull in our chest then that we just added to this object, and we're going to say chest open. Okay, and we are going to apply this override to our prefab that we've got here. We're going to delete this from the scene. And I often get paralyzed trying to make something perfect for every possible edge case that I'll never use. Yeah, and that's why I bring it up. There's... When you've been in IT for a very long time, and I don't know if you have or not, but like you learn when it's time to just make it good enough. If that makes sense. So our chest is not open. Our button is not there. Where did I put it? Did I put it right there? Oh no! Did I grab the wrong chest? Did I grab the wrong wall? Did I not save the prefab? Crap. I bet I didn't put it as part of the prefab, did I? Let's try it again. Gonna throw it in here. I'm gonna open the prefab this time because I don't... Yeah, it's not even here. And... that wall. What? No. Put it there. Move it down so we can reach it. Focus on it. -90, please. -90, please, on this one. There we go. And we've already got the action set up. Interesting. I certainly don't want to put that action on the prefab itself. Let's get that out of there. And on our actions here, we want to add one, and it's going to be this chest. And we're going to say open. Okay. Yeah, now I think what I did before applied this script change, which is why we had that there. But we don't want to do that in this case. So save. Let's get this out of here actually, and then save and run again. And this might have to be my last test, guys. Hopefully this works, because I want to see this thing work tonight. But it's getting late. There's our button. Our chest is closed. Let's see if I can... Our buttons aren't in the state I expected them. Chest is still closed. I don't know if I'm clicking in the right spot, so I'm going to spam everywhere. I'm not seeing anything happen. Why? Do we get any events? Nothing there. We don't have any scripts set up to do anything though. Toggle button isn't interactable. We were saying the get component there, and it didn't give us an error. Ah, I know what is wrong. So over here in projects, open prefab, interactable enabled. Yes, change our children. We weren't even getting the event fired to it because the raycast wasn't hitting it because it wasn't on that layer. Okay, chest is closed. Button switch, door opened on the chest. Just like that. Yes! So, obviously that isn't what I'm going to use it for long term, but we have a chest to test with. So, we're working with that. Okay, like I said, I gotta get. Thank you for the follow, guys. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Let's see if anyone is streaming, though. We want to go raid. Yeah, close enough, right? To the first try. Yeah, I'll catch you tomorrow, man. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? So it should be around the same time. Leland is streaming, and Leland recently has started to use Unity. Oh, but he's on break for another 8 minutes. Bummer. I don't know if he's still using Unity because it says Love 2D back on his thing, so we'll have to check him out later. Just search for Unity. Unity Day 9 as a StarCraft person, but I also where I am in my Unity stream status. What? What else we got? Not sure what he means by all that. Unity VR programming, game dev. He's using Blender too. Sure, let's go stream or raid this guy. Take a listen, see, make sure he's still there.
Used to sing it.
Yeah, cool. So let's raid this guy. Somebody new. Ah! Below the stone! You just now come? I'm about to raid somebody. Yeah, you're late, man. We actually had a button that can open a chest and everything. Gosh, if I can type this guy's name right, we'll stream him or raid him. There we go. I will catch you guys tomorrow. So this goes through in 10 seconds. If you are a subscriber, be sure to spam what? That. And Blowstone, you can do that. Bye.